Anyway, Sheila, so what have you been doing for the past 30 years? I mean, relatively speaking, a lot of times passed about 3 decades, since we worked together. So what have you been doing?
Actually, when I left radio, I went into the medical field. I was a surgical technician for a while. In the process of that, I went back to school because I was fresh out of college when I came to KFYO so many years ago. But over the past 20, just short of 21 years, I've been a probation officer, juvenile probation officer here in Lubbock County, served as a supervisor there, working with children, families, other agencies, trying to provide anything that we could to get the children back on the right path or to help them in managing themselves and making different decisions for their lives.
Huh. That's a trying
That's
occupation.
a huge task, yeah.
It's one of those things, I don't know if I'd be able to handle that.
I loved every minute of it.
Oh, okay. What makes you think that you're cut out for the city council gig? Because, the pay's not so great.
Yeah, it's not. And I was kind of concerned with so many opponents coming about that maybe there had been talk about pay and that I hadn't been made aware of. But it's not very good. But I think with regards to monetary means, however, the reward of being able to work with citizens in the community, work alongside them, alongside other leaders and council staff, to make a huge change in the city is very rewarding. I see that as being very rewarding. And I've kind of had an experience of watching that happen because my dad was a city councilman for 20 years right here in Lubbock, Texas, USA. So there are rewards, even though they're not in monetary fashion, they can be rewarding just working with the people.
What changes do you see coming?
With regard to the city, and I say that and indicate that my platform is actually that we'll be expecting to work together to revitalize the city of Lubbock, which must include District 2. I believe a lot of the citizens have felt as though they've been excluded or not included in a lot of the things that have been taking place. Some of the changes is I see a turnaround for the citizens and their involvement within the community, the city government process, and things of that nature.
All right, this is one thing that, I've noticed over the years. Of course, I've been here since 1980.
Yes, sir.
And 34th Street, Central Lubbock, was basically abandoned for 50th Street, in the 80s, and just completely ignored for decades, pretty much. And then 50th Street kind of goes by the wayside for, south-southwest, and now southwest.
Yes, sir.
So, I understand the feeling, that you want to get District 2 more involved in revitalization. Downtown is a big part of or very close to District 2.
That's correct.
And 34th Street has just gone under, immense changes. What do you want to see happen in District 2 on the east side?
Well, there are a lot of concerns for that area, those being safety, those being declining or lack of infrastructure, the transportation issues, in addition to property values, decline of property value. What I'm wanting to see is the community coming together so that we can kind of change those things by improving some of those areas and giving the citizens an opportunity to have a part in that, deciding and coming together and planning to revitalize the area. We're just one city, and District 2 is a part of Lubbock. And when we start and continue to section everything off, then we do feel as though we're not being included. And I think as the citizens begin to come together and work and develop relationships with developers and people that are in that area, then those things and those changes can take place. And 34th Street is a prime example of that taking place.
All right, let's go to the phone, 770-579-0HR. You're on. What's up?
Hey, I know I burnt my call already today, but I wanted to ask a quick question. Hello, Sheila. This is Heather. You know me.
Yes, sir.
I'm just calling in regards. I've been very concerned about our city council for a long time. It is leaning so left with a lot of things that they're doing. I'll give you a good example. For example, you take Citizens Tower. the city government made the decision on whether to buy that building or not. If a choice were brought to you on the leaders making that decision or the citizens making that decision through vote, which one would you prefer? And I know y'all got a tight schedule, so I'll hang up and listen.
Okay. Actually, I took time yesterday or over the past couple of days to kind of visit some of the decisions that had been made by the city, and that was one in particular. And looking back as a citizen, as I looked at that, I was very concerned with so much money being dedicated to a facility that I saw as being dilapidated and not having a lot of value. Although I don't have all of the information that maybe some of the other city council persons were privy to. But I would have liked to see that have a little bit more citizen involvement, because it's citizens funding that's actually going to revitalize, if you would call it that, or redevelop that building. So I would have taken that to the citizens in some form or fashion.
You know, just being devil's advocate, and I understand what you're saying. And
do you think we had much choice with that building? I mean, it was a monster.
It still is a monster.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It still is a monster, and we're looking at probably over $37 million is going to have to be put into that building. You just have to wonder. I mean, number one, you want to see what it's actually going to be utilized for. Mm-hmm. That's one concern, and I think the mayor had that very concern himself, and that was the reason he was not necessarily wanting to go along with that decision. And I agree with that. I think we need to have a plan in place and know what we're doing with something before we just charge right in and start agreeing to spend so much money. And I think when you start leaving the citizens out, I think a lot of citizens have great ideas that they can actually contribute, and we don't always allow them that opportunity.
You know, as far as revitalization in downtown, not just that particular building, but all of the property in the downtown area and in the periphery has become pretty hot property.
Yes, sir.
You know, as far as the property values and things like that, you know, buildings that, you know, you could have bought for a song, you know, 8-10 years ago are like sextupled in value.
Yeah.
Because they're in high demand.
Exactly.
And I understand what you're saying about that, but do you think that once you get into things like that and you're making the commitment, and again, just devil's advocate here, do you think the citizenry of Lubbock really knows enough about that as opposed to just saying, do we support spending the money or not support spending the money? Because realistically speaking, I can tell you this, and you know, I probably have a better awareness than the average bear because I am a property owner in the downtown area. However, you know, there are a lot of those things that even I know that I don't know enough about it to make an intelligent decision.
I understand that, but what would be the problem with educating the citizens about that process? What would be the problem with providing that information so that when you allow them to decide, they're able to make a informed decision? I think that there's been a lack of relationship building and maintaining and communication between the citizens and the city. That's a concern for me.
Yeah, I get it. We're in conversation with Shelia Patterson-Harris. In Canyon, temp 30, News Talk 790 KFYO, temperature 25 right now. Humidity's at 57%. Tom, Laura, we're in conversation with Shelia Patterson-Harris, running for City Council District 2. I wanted to ask you about, we've got a few minutes left. I wanted to ask you about something that Councilman Hernandez has said. Of course, he's leaving the pursuit of Council District 1, or being in Council District 1.
That's correct.
In pursuit of the mayor's seat. When he was talking, he felt like, or stated that he felt like 10% of the population had been served. And I said, so you feel like 90% of the population had been underserved? And his response was a one-word response: ignored. How do you feel?
I wouldn't say that they have been totally ignored. I think there's both sides bears some burden in that, both the citizens and the city as well, because there are individuals who don't want to get involved, don't want to be informed, don't want to communicate. And likewise, there are citizens who also would like to be informed, would like to be involved, but have not been. And then there are the 10%, I believe he was talking about, that are really kind of totally engaged. And I think we have to ensure and have to develop that communication between the city and the citizens and let them know that we do want to hear from them. We want them involved.
You know, when you're talking about responsibility, let me just, throw this out there. Probably between District 1, District 2, probably have the lowest participation rate in things like citizen comments, et cetera. Do you agree or disagree?
I think that there is a lot of room for improvement with regard to their participating in citizens' comments. I think that this is where we take on providing education between both sides and that we develop that communication and that relationship. As I travel throughout District 2, on this campaign trail, I've noticed that citizens aren't necessarily aware of the things that are accessible to them. They're not aware of how to access those things. So I think we have to provide that information for them so that, number one, they don't feel excluded, so that they don't feel ignored, and they know exactly how to get in there and be welcomed in participating in things.
Laura, I think a lot of that is if people are not in the loop and they haven't been in the loop and they don't, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't necessarily make them drink. I mean, I think a lot of people feel like, hey, you know what? They want to be vocal and they want to be heard, but they just don't know how to, to press the button to make the water come out of the fountain.
Yeah.
Interesting thing, when I was at one of the debates, the debate parties, I think it was not the one this last Saturday, but previous.
Okay.
Ahead of Iowa. Interesting thing is I met a guy that was at one of the tables, and he says, you know what? I was at the Texas Federation of Republican Women Convention, and he was working with the expositioner who actually did the setup. And he said, I decided then I wanted to be involved. And he just got out there and did it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, realistically speaking, how are you going to get people convinced that they just got to step up and get it on them?
And that people will listen.
Actually, what I've been doing tomorrow night, Tuesday at May Simmons Community Center at 6 o'clock, I'm having my second community speak out. And what it is an opportunity for citizens, no matter where you are, but specifically in District 2, to come and share with us your ideas, your concerns, your suggestions. I want to hear sometimes we don't ask people who have suggestions, great suggestions, and we don't ask them so they don't give it. So I think what we have to do is avail ourselves to give them an opportunity, get them used to being able to voice their concerns, getting them used to practicing, engaging in matters. And I think, and before they know it, then they're doing it. Sometimes we get people to do things and they have no idea that that's what's taking place.
And it truly becomes their community.
And that's what needs to happen. And I think that is a huge thing, specifically for District 2, so that the people in the community can become empowered and turn this thing around by their own hands, working with those who have the ability to bring in the resources and other information.
Nice. Okay. Anything else you want to say relative your campaign? We got about 45 seconds left.
Yes. Like I said, this will be my second speak out on tomorrow at May Simmons Community Center at 6 o'clock. All citizens, we're wanting you to come out. We'll be having more. This is our second one, and we're going to be hitting every community center in District 2 because we want to get to the people. We want them to know that we're approachable, and we'll be working with them side to side. We're trying to develop that relationship.
All right. Thanks. Shelia Patterson-Harris.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.